don't do that. So we're recording. So hello and welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining us tonight on this webinar, or if you're watching the replay, hello. A special hello to Angela tonight, who I know will be watching the replay at some point. Hope you're feeling well. We are missing you on our webinars, so when you can come back, that'd be brilliant. But anyway, so hello, Gillian. It's lovely.
I did.
Hi, it's lovely to see you with us this evening. I have known you, I don't know, I can't remember where we met. Can you?
I think it was the first space for connection.
Yeah, that's quite likely that it was.
Over
Yeah.
in Colchester, which is a good few years ago now.
It is, yes. We've known each other for quite some time, and I know I've bumped into you over the years at a few events and had some kind of small conversations with you. But it would be really, really great if you don't mind sharing a little bit more about you and anything that you think might be useful to people. Sometimes there are people quite new to the principles that watch these webinars, so it'd be really helpful if you share anything, you know, around that might help new people understand what it is we're talking about or anything. So do you want to share a little bit about you?
I can share a little bit about me. And first of all, thank you for inviting me. I think the name of these webinars is brilliant, the Lovely People webinar. I mean, who doesn't want to be included in that group? So I'm delighted to be here. And it's great to see some people watching as well, and people that are going to listen to the recording. Yeah, a bit about me. I came across principles, it must be 6 years, and before that I had done quite a lot of different things. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my backstory, because it really sort of helped for the first big insight that I had was so connected to that. So if you'll bear with me, I'll just give you a little bit of literally story.
I think that's brilliant. I think people relate to stories and love stories, so that is definitely perfect. Thank you.
So once upon a time, about 20 something years ago, I was married to a guy called Jeff, and we were very lucky that we could retire early and do that live the dream thing. We sold up and we went sailing, and we had a lovely time. We spent a lot of time popping into marinas and mooring with other boats and getting to know people and poodling down from the UK all the way down to Spain and then round to Portugal.
Wow.
And we had to pop up this river called the River Guadiana, which is the boundary between Spain and Portugal. And we fell in love with the place. So we decided that we would try and find some land and build a house and make that our base. We still wanted to go sailing, but we just wanted somewhere to have a base. So that was plan A. And we duly found somewhere and came back to the UK, got lots of bits and pieces, went back and started this adventure of building our own house in rural Portugal with a load of builders that were lovely guys, but Portuguese and didn't speak English. So we had some fun. And we learned a lot, and we got really frustrated with a load of bureaucracy. And we were about 9 months into build when Jeff started to act in a very strange way, and he was losing his balance and just being a bit weird. And we kind of blame the sun, because it's very hot out there and we're out all day, you know, working in the sun or whatever. So we kind of ignored it for a while until it got to the stage where one day we were sitting on the boat, and Jeff looked at me and he said, "Pass me the knives." And I kind of looked at him and he was pointing at the cushions. I thought, this isn't right. You know, the personality was changing. So we went to the doctor, and yeah, we got the diagnosis, brain tumour, stage 4. Nothing we can do. You've got a few months. And that few months turned actually into 2 months. And he died in the November in 1997. So we're talking 20 years ago. And I was left with a house and a boat in Portugal. Didn't speak the language, halfway through the build. But I'd made him a promise, and that promise was to finish the house. And so that was my motivator for the next 3 or so years. And I was living on the boat that was on the other side of the river and driving to site. And yes, I was coming back to the UK and starting to get a base here as well. So that's the background, and the reason that I'm telling you that is because obviously, having lived for 2 years in marinas with a lot, boats, I had this memory of being happy on a boat in a marina. Now, I used to go off to different places on holiday, and if there was a marina, I had this thought, this memory, because that's all memory is. It's a thought brought forward in time, and it immediately said to me, "You can't be happy here. That was your old life. That's gone. You need to be sad because you're sitting in this marina. So this whole scenario where you're sitting is very sad, and I'd react accordingly." And then to fast forward a bit, I met Jamie Smart, and I actually did some work for him because at the time I was doing some copywriting, I was doing some marketing, and he asked me to write some emails. So he would write the sales letters, the long letters explaining about his upcoming seminars, and I'd write the emails to his list that sort of encouraged him to have a look at that sales letter and hopefully buy a ticket. And because I had to read through the sales letters, obviously, to write the emails, I found myself reading one of his sales letters one day and I burst into tears. And I didn't know why, but something had really, really, really hit me very deeply, like a sort of kick in the solar plexus, but in the nicest possible way. And I felt like a golden thread had sort of come out of my tummy and was pulling me forward, if you like. And I think it was attached to my heart as well. And going, you need to, because Jamie at that time was just turning towards 3 principles from NLP. And I really need to find out more about this 3 principles stuff. There's something going on here. And I think what I still hear in my head is the phrase that he used was, "This is a hope for the future of mankind."
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a pretty big statement, but it spoke to me. And so I joined up, went on his course and started learning. And one of the things I got for joining up was a retreat in Sitges in Spain, which is, I don't know if you know it, it's a fabulous, fabulous place outside Barcelona. It's a great place. And we were there in October, I think it was. So it was still lovely and warm. We had a hotel that looked over one of the bays by the sea. We were about 20 minutes walk into town, so we used to walk past the nudist beach, actually, was on the way to town. So we'd kind of pause, but mostly it was the old wrinkly guys that were there sort of strutting their stuff, I think the younger boys had gone back to to work by then. So we'd just poodle into town. And I think it was about the first or second night that we were there, we all said, "Oh, let's go out to supper." And they had these lovely, lovely restaurants, as you do in Spain, various places like that, where the restaurant is sort of there and you've got the street, which is pedestrianised in the evening, and they have a little extra bit, which has got a canopy and some more tables. And you sit there and it's warm and you can have a nice drink and you can sit and enjoy a very nice meal. And so we went off to this restaurant and we're all sitting in this lovely sort of bit. And we're having a nice time. There was a small group of us. It was just before the retreat had started. And we're all sitting there, and I'm just sitting there thinking, "Oh, I'm really enjoying this. It's lovely and warm. There's lovely company. I'm excited about what the retreat is going to bring forth. And this is delightful." And I looked. I can see it now. I looked to my right, and there was a bloody marina, and loads of boats. And nothing happened. There was no, this is the sad moment. There's no, I can't possibly enjoy this. There was just, "Oh, look, nice boats. Well, it's a lovely one over there. Gosh, isn't it a super evening? Oh, what did you say just now?" Nothing. No reaction. No, turning of the gut or anything. And I quietly sat there, and I don't know whether you've had this experience where something really hits you and it's like the scene actually fades a bit and you're just there and you have this awareness and the voices will fade away and it's just you and whatever. And you just go, and then it's gone and you come back. And I just went, "I don't believe this." So I did what you do when you've got toothache, and you keep putting your tongue in to prod the tooth. So I'm actually literally prodding my brain to go, you should be sad, you should be sad. Why aren't you sad? Nothing. Couldn't manufacture it. And that's when I really saw that is what's available with this understanding. You know, we have, in that moment, I had the capacity to be there, not there with my memories coming forward, not there with my future that might be, just in in the now, in that moment, totally present, with nothing on my mind. And that was like, oh yeah, there's something in this. You know, that was so, so powerful. I can still feel the reaction of that. Words can't put into how impactful that was for me, because it kind of broke, in a way, a chain reaction that I thought I had to live with the rest of my life. It took me away from that's what was, that's how it used to be for you when you were married. That's not there anymore. And I knew that, but I didn't. I hadn't stepped that extra step towards, you know, me now, me then, me now. And so to me, that was the moment that this all started, and just started. I had a glimpse. I had a glimpse of the power of this. I had the glimpse of the healing that this can bring when you start to see how life really works. You know, it's not those boats, that water, they weren't giving me the feeling. What was giving me the sad feeling was that memory pulling itself forward, that thought coming back to me again, or, you know, a version of it coming back to me, and giving me a felt feeling about, oh, sad.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be like that, you know. And so that was, I think that, as I said, that was 6 years ago. And I'm still learning. Never stop. Never stop. But
that sounds like a really beautiful example of, to me, of how this understanding, the truth of it is the same for everyone, and yet what happens to us is very personal to us. You know, that insight was hugely massive for you, and it's like the insights that are personal insights, the things that we get for ourselves, are hugely useful to us personally. That's the beautiful, beautiful thing of it, isn't it?
And, you know, and that's, come on to that later, but I want to loop back to something Maureen talked about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I've been waiting for this. I've been on the edge of my seat waiting for this.
And, you know, for anybody that wasn't on the webinar 2 weeks ago, the lovely Maureen was speaking, and and she alluded to the way this can have an impact, this understanding can have an impact on one person. And Maureen and I were actually lucky enough to be sitting in the summer school in Salt Spring Island. It's 2015. And we were sitting beside each other, and Chip and Elsie were on stage, and Chip was talking. And I've got Maureen sitting, you know, next to me. And Chip said something, and I was in floods of tears. You know, again, it was a bam, something's hit me. And Maureen's kind of going, I want what she's got, you know, almost, what's going on? I didn't hear anything, you know, and so I thought, oh, I know, I'll tell the story about that. And what Chip was saying, and I actually made some notes because I did write a blog about it, so I revisited that today. But what Chip was saying is that we come into this world as pure ego. You know, we're fresh, we're new, we've had no influence, so there's no good, there's no bad, there's no positive, no negative. We're just this ego thing that's coming. You know, the baby's popped out, and here's in the separateness, the individuality, this ego. And then we start to go through life. And he likened it to a little snowball that starts to roll through life. And on the way, the ego starts to gather an identity. You know? We're told how to behave, we're told we're good, we're told we're bad in certain senses. We go to school and the teacher praises us or tells us we're not very clever, whatever. And this snowball is gathering momentum. You know, there's more and more of a crust that is covering up who we really are, that shining, perfect ego that first came in. And we're losing our connection with who we really are. And it's just rolling down the hill. And then suddenly, it might bump over a bump, and it might just stop for a minute, this snowball. And the sun might seem to just start melting a little bit of that outer edge of the snowball. And we might suddenly realise that something's just dissolved that we thought was true about ourselves. And then the snowball starts rolling on again. But we might have just caught a glimpse that maybe it's not all true, you know? What we've been told, that we've taken on board, that has become us, just how I am.
Yeah.
You know? I have a lot of just who I am, how I am, that I could list, but that would be incredibly boring and take up hours. And so this snowball is just rolling along on its way, and then, something else stops us literally in our tracks. And the snowball's feeling a bit heavy, and we just go, just stop here and reflect for a minute. It starts to feel a bit lighter. And some more of that snow is melting away. And we suddenly realise that it's not that sun out there that's melting it away. It's that inner warmth, that inner connection to our true selves, our true source. The glow is coming from within us. And that's just dissolving the layers, literally dissolving the illusion of who we think we are. All those stories, like the story I've just told, that's a story. That's all it is. You know, everything is a story. It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. And the more that we can dissolve that, or we don't, it just dissolves by itself, the smaller our snowball gets, our outer casing, the more we can shine through. And I just got it. How much have I kept myself small? How many stories have I told myself that I'm not good enough? I'm not clever enough? You know, loads and loads of things that I've told myself and that people have told me. I had a very unpleasant teacher at my junior school, and I think practically every class I'd come out of that in tears because she'd made me look an idiot. And I thought I was. I thought I was stupid, especially about maths. You know? I felt different because she didn't pick on the other kids. Why did she pick on me? Because I was a bit quiet and a bit fragile, maybe. And actually, I can remember sitting down, she'd asked me a question, and it was a maths question. And not only had I worked out the answer, but because I was in a panic mode, because, you know, the spotlight was on me, you didn't put your hand up, so I'm going to ask you. I'd worked the answer back to the original question. So I'd gone complete circles. So I looked an idiot because I gave her the question rather than the answer. You know? And it took me years to actually see that's what I'd done, because I had so much thinking up here about total panic mode, you know, she's going to make me look an idiot again. Now, I lived with that for ages, you know, that I'm not good enough. And then I actually heard through a friend that we went to the same school, same class, same person, that lady that I've been so scared of had been actually arrested for shoplifting. And it struck me that she was just doing the best, and actually she wasn't doing very well then. And something had happened, you know, and she'd found herself in that situation, and it took on a completely different aspect. She was no longer the ogre, the horrid person. She was just another human being that was doing the best she could at that time. I mean, nowadays, I'm sure, Sue, you would you'd think that that teaching method was probably not the best approach, you know, and probably wouldn't be allowed anymore. But that's just who she was being at the time. It's the best she knew how to do. And I just saw that. So that, you know, again, that little crusty bit of snow, that fell away. And I just loved how Chip was saying, you know, again, it comes back to when we're in that now moment, when we haven't got that past memory going, remember how this is how you react, this is how you are, you know, this is who you are. And when we're just with what's occurring at the moment and how we're feeling in that particular moment, yeah, new thought, it pops again, you know, new experience. And so that's a long-winded way of saying that's probably why I was touched by what Chip said, because it really hit me that I didn't need to keep the snowball crust on. I could, just by being who I truly am, that would dissolve it. And the illusion just fell away. Yeah.
I loved it when you said that it was falling away because of the warmth coming from the inside of you. And I think that is, you know, I think it is when we look to ourselves, when we look, we've got everything we need within us. And I think, like you say, often when we add all this stuff with our snowball, I know from everything you've said, I can so relate to some of the things that you've said, you know, how I picked up these things and somebody looks at you that you think's the wrong way, or somebody says something to you that's a little bit, you know, you've got a little bit of a thinking about not being good enough, whatever, then somebody says that and how we can add to that. And it is, and we just carry those things, don't we? And then when we actually look to the truth of who we are, when we look deeper within ourselves, it is that melts all these layers and kind of allows us. And the other really lovely thing that kind of struck me when you were talking was how, to me, it also helps us, like the way the kind of almost the knock-on effects, or the way that the ripples out of what happens from this is when we see that about ourselves, we see that about other people as well. And like you were saying about your teacher, you know, I can absolutely see sometimes there were people in my life that I just thought they were just mean. They didn't have to do that. That was just mean. They didn't have to say that to me. They didn't have to do that like that. That was just mean. And now I can kind of so look at those people with compassion and understanding, because I can see that when I'm in those places, I'm mean. You know, when I'm feeling insecure, when I'm not feeling great, then I'm mean. And it's kind of, you can begin to see that actually if somebody is being mean, it's coming from an insecurity within them. And it's sort of it's so much easier when you're seeing it from that perspective to be kinder to people, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we were talking before we came on air about the email that I got through yesterday,
Yeah.
which I think illustrates that quite well, what you're talking about. And to share with everybody, I got an email through yesterday. It was unsolicited, and it was from a guy who said he had seen my profile on LinkedIn, and he was taking this opportunity to connect with me because he wanted a personal relationship. And it was a bit creepy, and I kind of looked at it, but he said, oh, I'm attaching a photograph so you know what I look like, because there isn't a photograph on my LinkedIn profile. And I thought, no, this isn't right. So I sent it off to a friend who immediately came back, said, don't go there, just block it. And I did a little bit of looking and investigating and found out the name he was using was actually a person on LinkedIn, but the person did in fact have a photo, and it certainly wasn't the photo he had sent me. So I just thought, right, I'm ignoring this. But I did put a post on Facebook this morning just saying, has anybody else had a similar thing? You know, I've had this email. And my stepdaughter immediately came through, said, "Just block him, Jill." Yeah, okay. But I got some really interesting replies, and one of them was from a mutual friend of ours, Elaine, and she told, I didn't actually share the content of the email, but she shared some of what she had got on a similar email, and it actually was the same wording, and he'd sent the same picture of who was supposed to be to her, but Elaine recognised who the picture was of, and it was of a person who's very well known in the healthy eating community. So it certainly confirmed that he wasn't that person. And so I kind of thought, oh, just a scam. And it then occurred to me, I started thinking about it. So I actually wrote a blog, which I've just published on my website. And it occurred to me that in his world, it was okay to approach ladies that way. You know, it was okay to pretend to be somebody else and to steal somebody's name. It was okay to use somebody who is quite well known, actually. I've checked him out on Facebook and on Google, you know, to use that person's photograph to pretend that that's who he was. And it was okay for him to think that, you know, us women weren't going to try and check it out at all. So that was his reality. You know, he's living in his illusion of this is an okay thing to do. So I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, you know, he's doing the best he can, given what's happening to him at the moment, and given the fact that, you know, that's his level of consciousness, if you like, at the moment, is saying that to get what he wants, what, you know, connection, love, sex, whatever he's really seeking, maybe money, that he thinks he needs from you know, our world outsiders, that's going to make him happy, that's going to make him fulfilled. So, and I started to feel quite compassionate for him, not condoning what he'd done, because that's wrong, that's out of order, but thinking about the soul of that human being, that he had lost so much touch with who he really is, that he felt that was an okay thing to do. That was the only thing he knows how to do to get what he wants. And he believes that what he wants that's outside of him is going to make him happy. The "I'll be happy when" syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I still, it's nothing to do with me. The universe has got this. What will happen with this guy. I don't know what his circumstances are. I never will. But all I can do is just send him love and say, I hope that you can maybe hear something, that you can realise that you don't need to be that way. You know, you can at any moment wake up and get back in touch with your true self. You know, so that's what I wish for him.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, it moves me that this is so sad that he's in that state, you know, and he thinks that that's the way to get out of it and to get what he wants. And so, you know, I hope he's only sad and lonely. I hope he's not a con man or a predator. You know, I hope he does nobody any evil, and I hope that his path does improve. And that was a big lesson to me, because I started off feeling uncharitable towards him, annoyed with him, not disgusted, but you know, I'm too old for those sort of emails. Really? I'm sorry, I'm not interested. Maybe. I mean, if that picture had been true, I might have been a little bit more interested.
Yeah, you'd been young enough.
But you know, that's again, I'm touched by this understanding that
Yeah.
can make me go from where I was to where I feel now at the moment. Um,
And I think it's
just
really
by
good.
knowing.
Yeah, the more of us in the world that can kind of be compassionate with people, because when you know, probably nothing much would have come of something like that anyway, but it is these places when we feel insecure, when we feel hurt and upset by emails or people or these kind of things, you know, then we could easily lash out at these people. And yet when we can come from a compassionate place, and what I've noticed with my understanding is there sometimes is something to do, you know, sometimes behavior isn't, you know, acceptable, but I think when we can come from that place of love and compassion within ourselves, what we do has a way better impact on the people around us and these people or whatever. You know, when we can come from that place, you know, when we can feel love and compassion within ourselves. And I have really seen that, you know, understanding these principles, understanding where my experience comes from, has definitely changed me. I am definitely way more compassionate and loving towards other people than I used to be. And it's not to say that I don't ever feel annoyed with people, but
We're still human. We still get caught up. You know.
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm still human, as far as I know. Shall we ask, before we kind of carry on a little bit, shall we ask if anyone would like to ask anything, if anyone has got any questions or anything like that? You can unmute yourself. If you roll the scroller over your page, you'll see a little button to unmute yourself and you can speak, or I can unmute you if you just want to put your hand up if you've got your picture showing. We've got some, but if anyone wants to share anything themselves, wants to comment, oh, okay, I will unmute you, Lucy Lou. I think you're unmuted.
This is actually a serious question. It might come across silly, but like, could we not invite that guy to Maureen's retreat so he can learn the principles?
If we knew who he was.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be like, I know, yeah, that is a bit of a funny one, but it would be seriously awesome to come back and say that to him. That was all.
No, do you know what? On that kind of talking from that perspective, there was one day I was in Barnstable. I was looking for a place to do a meetup, and there was a homeless man sat on the side of the road, and I was with Judith, my friend, and we just got chatting to this homeless man who was sat on the floor, and there was another man with him who was a friend of his who came up, and we were going to have a meeting, like a three principles meeting that evening. And we just, this man was really, you know, the two of them were talking about their struggles and how difficult life was and things like this. And they just said, you two just look so bright and cheerful and smiley and everything, you know, what's kind of going on for you? And I just said, well, why don't you come along to our meeting this evening? And it was just a throwaway comment. I mean, you know, this man hadn't done anything wrong, but he was definitely caught up in a lot of thinking. And that, it really, really surprised me that man actually came to my meeting that evening. and he's still in touch now. He's on my mailing list. He gets all my emails. He, you know, every so often he, you know, so it is amazing how, you know, maybe not this man particularly, I don't know, you never do know, but it is amazing how, you know, we can touch people like that are just random people who we don't know, that we just come across in our lives in whatever way. Yeah, no, so it would be cool. It would be really, really cool if we could. Thank you, Lucy.
And I think, you know, that's lovely what you're saying, Deborah, and it just shows that who we're being and what we're radiating, if you like, people feel it.
Yeah.
And they go, whoa, hang on, what's going on? Happy person, or, you know, there's something. And if they're ready to explore, if they're ready to hear something, you know, that their eyes are sort of starting to open, their ears are starting to open, then you inviting him, that was his. It's almost like he was ready. He was there before you asked the question.
Mm.
And yeah, and that can happen anytime. Yeah. So
Yeah, it
you
can.
never know, that guy might hear something.
You just don't know, and this is it, and we don't know. One of the things that I often do when I'm at my meetings, as we look around the room, is I kind of say to people, how did you end up here? And I invite anyone on this webinar to kind of just look what things conspired, what happened so that you're here tonight listening to this. And that always fascinates me, because I can just so see the amount of things that we're not in charge of. There's so much we haven't got control of. And I think when we stop that desperate need to be in control of everything, and I think that's comes from our own insecurity, doesn't it, this desperate need to control. And it's really interesting, I think, if we just take a second and just reflect, how did you end up here tonight? And I just think it's a fascinating one when you look back, how did you meet this person? What happened in their life? What happened in your life to bring the threads of our lives together, that we're here together on this call? And the other thing, at the very beginning, you kind of said, you love the name of these webinars, the Lovely People webinars. And the thing that I have just so seen for myself is that the more I have looked in this direction, the more I've understood this, and the more compassionate I have been with people in a way that I know I wasn't before. It just looks to me like I am surrounded by truly lovely people. I just feel like my life is full of the most beautiful, lovely people, and it just doesn't look, wow, get to hang out like this with some truly beautiful people. And I think the more that we spread that in the world, the more that we kind of put that out there, it does give people a chance to, somehow it does wake things up in other people, doesn't it? In the same way that some of the people who we were lucky enough to be in the room and listen to, when we were at Space for Connection, those conversations we were lucky enough to be a part of, touch something. When you spoke about Chip and Jan, if you just hear something and are lucky enough to be touched by these things, it is truly, truly life-changing. And going back to your story, I just love how it impacts each person. The impact of listening to this and being touched by this truth is so beautiful and personal for them. And it can be personal on the most surface level, and it can go, like with your snowball and being melted, it can go right to our heart, or it can be just those. I notice it so much in the most ordinary, normal things in my life. And I notice it in the things that are the most deeply important to me. And I didn't know your story. I knew your husband had died, because I knew that sometimes some of the work you'd done had been with, people who'd had a bereavement, and I knew that you had seen something beautiful around bereavement, but I didn't know that that's how he had died and that's what's happened. So it was nice to get to know that and hear your story. So I really appreciate it.
It's a long time ago now, but yeah, it's true. I have worked with a few people that have lost people. It's that's why the jumping back into the game of life tagline came along. Because we get knocked down. It doesn't have to be death. It can be trouble, it can be all sorts of things that really knock us for six. And then we get to the stage of going, I think it might be safe to go outside again. It might be safe to get back into this this ride, as Bill Hicks called it. It's just a ride, just is. Doesn't matter. Goes up and down, round and round. It's very brightly coloured. That's all it is. And we might as well play. And the more we have this understanding, the more the knocks still come. The big waves can really knock us down completely. But it seems to me they don't floor us for so long, because we understand where experience that experience is coming from. And we see that, as Maureen was talking about the other week, that we're okay no matter what. The inner light, the source of who we are, that whatever words we call it, is unshakable, unbreakable, and can never be damaged. This body is going to decay, it's going to die. Oh well, it was fun. But whatever that core is, in some way or form, it just goes back into the oneness, doesn't it? This little, to use a Paul Morgan Summers metaphor, we are the ocean, and we plop up as little ocean drops, and we think we're separate, and we think we're wonderful, and and then we just go back into the ocean again. But the ocean's still there, we're just part of it. And it's that we are not separate, that's just the illusion. We're all one, we're all connected, everything's connected on this planet. And we're hearing more and more about the intelligence of trees, the communication that trees have. And isn't that fascinating? And are we surprised? We shouldn't be, should we? Surely. We may be the highest evolved of the species, but we're still all breathing the same air. And I just find it fascinating that I have moments where I feel incredibly connected to people and I'm in love with everybody, and then 5 minutes later I cannot be in love with everybody and not want to talk to anybody and be grumpy or whatnot, and this, it's ebb and flow. It just happens. Principles, are living through me. I'm an expression of the principles. I am mind, I am thought, I am consciousness. And that's the only way that I can experience this existence that I'm in at the moment on this planet. And that is huge. When you start to see that, it is literally mind-blowing. We can't actually, I don't think we can appreciate it to its full extent. No. But these little glimpses, wow, this is awesome. And that's such fun.
Yeah, it is amazing that it only has to be a tiny little glimpse, doesn't it, that is transformational, because there's so much. I absolutely know there's this kind of much that I've seen and understood, and this kind of much that I have no clue about, and yet just that tiny little bit has been enough to totally transform my life. And it's obvious from the way that you've been speaking, it's had a huge impact on you too. And I know, the other lovely people that we've been speaking to, it just has a huge impact on people. And it only has to be those tiny little glimpses that we see are enough to shift people, enough to melt these snowballs. So
yeah. I think the other thing that, the lovely thing that you were talking about is the fact that we're not in control. I love it. I love that. I can just sit back and go, I'm not in control of any of this. I have no say about this. And I'm just going to, sit here and watch it and be active in it. But I have no idea what's going on. And I think once I saw that, it just makes me laugh. How egotistical to think that I was in control at all.
Yeah, that is a fun one, isn't it? The whole, and I think, I can absolutely see when I look back over my life, it was that real, I felt the need to control, definitely. It felt like, this, if I didn't control things would get out of control, I suppose, and it can be a very, very frightening place. And it is, like you talked about what happened to you with your husband and things like that, it can feel very frightening at times when we realise, and it is times like that we do realise we're not in control. We can't choose when it is our time to live and when it is our time to die. We don't get to choose those things. But it is, like you say, when we're here and when we look at what we can do, what we can experience, what we can, this is the whole works, isn't it? We get the whole fairground ride, we get it all. And there are some really amazingly, brilliantly fun things to see in this world. And some, go back to these webinars, just some really, truly beautiful, lovely people to meet and have these conversations with and to kind of share. And I don't think we ever know when somebody's going to hear something and somebody's going to be touched and somebody's life is going to be changed. You know, those moments that you've described, you know, when you were sat there and you saw that marina and you realised something, and then when you were in that thing with Jan and Chip, we just have these moments of realization. And what we can also see is that this is true for everyone. And even if whether you understand the principles or whether you even have got a clue what it is we're talking about when we're talking about these principles, this is always happening for every human being all the time.
Yeah, no exceptions. Nobody's left out.
Nope.
All works the same way. And you know, and the joyous thing is that we don't even have to worry about that. It's, you know, to use the good old gravity metaphor, you know, gravity is there whether we know the equation, whether we understand it. How often do we think about it? I don't go around all the time saying, "Oh, thank you, gravity, for keeping my feet on the ground," or "Damn it, gravity, I've now smashed that plate because of you. It's fallen on the floor and slipped out of my hand." You know, gravity's just there, isn't it? Principles are just there. We don't have to think about them, believe them, be interested in them, whatever. They're just there. Thank goodness.
Yeah, and we can look back at our lives, can't we, and see, I'm guessing, you know, when in your moments when you've looked back over all the things that's happened to you, you know, with your house in Portugal and dealing with builders who don't speak the language and don't do things the same as you do them, we can look back at those things and we can see our resilience, and we can see, even before there was any understanding, we can see how the thread of that resilience was always woven into our lives. And to me, it just looks like, now I see that and understand it, it's like I can be aware of that even in those moments where before it would have looked like there was just no hope for anything. It's like, oh yeah, just remember, you know, you're okay no matter what. Like you were saying, Maureen was sharing the other week, seeing our okayness no matter what, seeing this deeper part of ourselves, seeing this thing that we are a part of, because even though we're not in control, we are a part of something mind-blowingly, unbelievably amazing. And just knowing that we're a part of that, knowing that is what is at our core and is at the core of everyone. And I think, like you said, even with the man that you were talking about earlier with the email, we begin to see that in people, don't we? We begin to see that, yeah, at his core. And the oneness thing for me always comes up. It's like, until I realise that, given the thinking and the understanding that that man has got, if in that position I would do what he did.
Yeah, or worse. Yeah. There but poor fortune, go you or I guess.
Yeah.
What would we do? Wherever and whatever's happening.
So I think I am forever grateful and feel forever blessed that I was lucky enough to come across this understanding and to see this and to have all these, you know, opportunities to be here with just the most lovely people in the world and, you know, talk about this and share with people and see people. I know with some of the things you do and some of the groups that you hold, it's just lovely, isn't it, to watch people in the groups and to see people see something and light up from the inside, which is beautiful with your snowball metaphor, because we do light up from the inside, that melts the layers on the outside and lets them fall away.
Yeah, you know, and to quote Sydney Banks, we have the best job in the world. We get to gently tap people on the shoulder and watch them while they wake up. That's what we do. It's everything. So
can you share with us, if people want to talk to you some more, if people are interested in finding out more about you and what you do, if anything's touched anybody, how can people get in contact with you, and what are you up to? Are you up to anything that you want to share with us? What are you doing?
Ah. I've been having a very quiet and reflective time, because last year Sue and I were working together with Frocks and Minds, and we had some lovely group meetings and ran some workshops, and that's kind of back burner at the moment. But it's we never know when we might decide we're going to do something and get some people together, and so I'm mentoring a couple of people, one who I've worked with for a long time, and it's lovely to keep in touch, and just she'll contact me if she wants to have a conversation, and it's just lovely to watch her blossom, and to see her understanding.
You mentioned that you've got a website and a blog. Can we, I didn't put your website on the information that I sent out because I didn't have it. That was very remiss of me. Had a busy week. It's a very easy one. It's gillianfox.com. Oh, perfect. So that's a nice easy one, gillianfox.com.
Yeah, and if people want to email me, it's gillian@gillianfox.com.
Can we read your blogs on the website then, if we want to read?
Yeah, it's all there. It's all there. And there's my numbers on there if somebody wants to have a chat with me. We can always get together and have a free 30 minutes and just see if somebody wanted to work with me, then they can get a flavour of the way I work, and we can go forward if that's the right thing for them at that moment. Yes, if anybody wants to read the story of my past life, I did write a book, and that's on Kindle, so that's called Promise Me, A Personal Journey. And it just gives a bit more detail about sailing around the world. Well, only got as far as Portugal, and some of the ups and downs that stopped my Snowball in its track, and it takes me, I think it goes up to when I met Jamie Smart, actually, so it's very much Three Principles. But again, what you were saying, it's all about inner strength, and that's, I really got how much inner strength I had in that moment, and that was a wake-up surprise, because I didn't know I was that strong. And find that strong, then so is everybody else.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? We always think, I know it's very easy to watch other people, like when you're talking about, what happened to your husband and that, and obviously, our minds go to our own families and our own people, and we go, but we do have the resilience to cope with so much more than we think we do, don't we? And like when we look at things and think, oh, I couldn't bear it if that happened to me. And yet it's like we are wired and made, and, this intelligence behind us, like it gives us the resources, it gives us what we need to cope with who we are and what we are. That's what's so...
and I think it's important to say that, we're not happy la 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 all the time. We can be in the depths of despair, but we can still remember that it's okay. And I think we get to experience the ups and the downs more fully in that way. I lost somebody, a friend, a few years ago, unexpectedly, stupid accident, and I was so angry with him, and I allowed that anger to come out completely, and that turned into sadness that his life had ended in such a daft way, really, when he'd done so many highly dangerous things and survived, and then some stupid thing happened and he's no longer around. But it was all done in a much shorter space of time. And that funeral was one of the most amazing ones I've been to, and the outpouring of love and laughter and remembering, and the stories for this larger than life person. So it's not that we don't go down to the depths, but we know that it's not good or bad to be sad or happy. It just is the way we are feeling in that moment, given our thinking about what's just happened. And that's okay. There's there is no need to be afraid of the deep emotions, the highs and the lows. There's no need to be afraid of what hasn't happened yet, because how do we know? But we can hang, we have that inner strength. We all do. It's there. It will, when you need it, it'll be there. Yeah.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions for Gillian, or anything they would like to add or share or anything? I don't know if anyone's putting... What I've noticed that tends to happen when we get together and have these conversations, you get at the beginning, everybody's here and they're all like this, and then as we begin to talk, everybody just kind of goes into this lovely, quiet, peaceful place, which is really good. It's really lovely to see that, people touching their inner sunshine themselves, this thing that melts their snowball. It's easy, isn't it, when we kind of get together and have a conversation, you just begin to see a little glimpse of our own, that inner strength you're talking about, that whatever it is, this inner thing that we all have. It's so lovely, isn't it, to just spend a few minutes and connect with that a little bit. That seems to, I don't know, I feel like I get a little bit of a boost from that. Has anybody got anything that they want to add or say? It doesn't look like it. It looks like everybody's just quiet and peaceful.
I think we're done.
I think you've just made everybody feel really lovely.
Thank you, Gillian.
So I will
Thanks for listening.
Unmute everybody. Well, I've unmuted everybody. If people want to. Sorry, go on. Can we?
Who's next week?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh yeah. Who? Oh yeah. Next week on our lovely people webinar, he's going to have a difficult job following you, Gillian. But next week we've got Dickon Bettinger coming to speak to us.
I think he'll do very well.
I'm sure he'll be. I might get him to thinking a bit and worry about it, mightn't he? He's probably worried. Having watched, if he's watched you tonight, he will probably be in a bit of a place of thinking, oh my goodness. And Maureen the other week, and Julie the other week. Yeah, he's got some really high class acts to follow, I'm afraid, but we'll see. And then he can...
We'll be here to support him. He'll manage.
Yeah, so if you don't mind coming along next week to support him, I think he would really...
Yeah, I'll just hold his hand, gently hold his hand, it'll be fine.
So, yeah, if anybody wants to turn up again next week, I think that would be quite good, because I think he might need a little bit of encouragement. It was really, really lovely speaking to you, Gillian. I'm having just the most fun. This is cool.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Gillian, it was lovely. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Gillian, I've heard your story a number of times, and every time you tell it, I well up.
Yeah.
I just love you, lady. Just love you.
Oh,
Love you too, darling.
She's pretty awesome, isn't she?
Yeah, I'm loving this.
Well, it's kind of like you two. It's really been good speaking to you and Maureen, because you've always just been the two ladies behind the bookstall, or the two ladies, and it's actually really good to have you and listen and hear, the depth of what you see. It's been really lovely. It's been a real pleasure to have you be part of our webinars. It's lovely and I love hearing different people's stories, because I just think it shows, sometimes when someone tells their particular story, they're like, oh, well, you're nothing like me, nothing like that's happened. But it's really good, I think, to see there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that understanding the principles can't help you see, on a deeper level, help you just have this nicer, softer, more easy experience of life somehow. So I think it's great to hear from lots of different people. It's brilliant. So if anyone would like to join us next week at 7 o'clock next week, it will be the lovely Dickon Bettinger. So we would love to see you, and it's been brilliant to see you all tonight. Thank you very much. If nobody has got anything else they want to add, then I will let you all continue with your evening, and hopefully see you again soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Bye. It's lovely to see you, Sue.
Recording, Deb.
Thank you. It's lovely.